The Galactic Confederation had ruled the stars for 12,000 years. They controlled 10,000 worlds across 100 galaxies. Their power was absolute. Their technology was beyond imagination. No species had ever challenged them and survived. When their deep space sensors first detected radio signals coming from a small blue planet called Earth, the Confederation paid little attention. The signals were weak and primitive. The species that sent them had barely learned to leave their own world. They were like children playing with toys while giants walked among the stars. The Council of 7 Species met to discuss these new creatures called humans. The meeting lasted only a few minutes. Humans were classified as a level 2 civilization. This meant they were interesting enough to watch, but too weak to matter. The Confederation decided to leave them alone for now. Let them grow a little. Let them spread to their nearby planets. Then, when the time was right, they would be brought into the Confederation as a servant species. That time had now come. Ambassador Vethiner of the Corvani Dominion was chosen to deliver the message. The Corvani were ancient beings made of living crystal. They stood 3 meters tall, and their bodies glowed with inner light. Vethiner had served the Confederation for 2,000 years. He had delivered this same message to 47 species before. All of them had surrendered. The ones who refused no longer existed. The meeting took place on a human orbital station above Earth. Vethiner looked around with mild disgust. The station was small and crude. The metal walls showed signs of rust. The air recyclers made too much noise. These humans truly were primitive. The human delegation arrived and took their seats across the table. There were 5 of them. Their leader was a woman named Ambassador Alana Chan. She was small by Corvani standards, with dark hair and calm eyes. Vethiner noticed that she did not seem afraid. This was unusual. Most species trembled when they first saw Corvani. "I bring greetings from the Galactic Confederation," Vethiner began. His voice was deep and resonated through the room. "I also bring a message for your species." Ambassador Chun nodded politely. "We are listening." Vethiner activated a holographic display. It showed the solar system, with Earth, Mars, the Moon, and all the human settlements marked in blue. Then red dots appeared at the edge of the system. Thousands of them. "The Confederation has decided that humanity will join our great union," Vethiner said. "Your colonies on the Moon, Mars, and the asteroid belt will be transferred to Confederation control. Your species will be granted protected status. This means you will be confined to Earth and watched over by our representatives. You will provide workers and resources as needed. In exchange, you will receive our protection." The human delegates looked at each other. One of them, a military officer, clenched his fists under the table. But Ambassador Chun remained calm. "And if we refuse?" she asked. Vethiner made a sound that might have been laughter. "Refusal is not a meaningful option. The Confederation Armada has already been sent. 4,000 warships are approaching your system as we speak. Each one is capable of destroying your entire fleet. Resistance would not be brave. It would simply be foolish." He leaned forward, his crystalline face catching the light. "I have delivered this message to 47 species before you. Some accepted peacefully, and their people still exist. Others chose to fight." He paused. "I do not remember their names." "No one does." The room was silent. Vethiner could see the fear on some of the human faces. Good. Fear was useful. Fear made species cooperate. But Ambassador Chun still did not look afraid. She looked thoughtful. "How long do we have to respond?" she asked. 72 of your hours, Vethiner replied. "The Armada will arrive shortly after. If you have not surrendered by then, they will begin the cleansing. I suggest you use this time wisely. Ambassador Chun stood up slowly. "We will discuss your offer and give you our answer." Vethiner was surprised. Most species begged at this point. They cried. They asked for mercy. This woman acted like they were negotiating a trade agreement. "There is nothing to discuss," he said. "You have only one choice." "Perhaps," Chun replied. "But we will discuss it anyway. That is how humans do things." She turned and walked toward the door. The other delegates followed her. Just before she left, she looked back at Vethiner. "Thank you for traveling so far to deliver this message personally," she said. "We will be in touch." Then she was gone. Vethiner stood alone in the meeting room, feeling something he had not felt in centuries. He was not sure what to call it. It was not fear exactly, but something about that woman bothered him. Something about the look in her eyes. He dismissed the feeling. It did not matter. In 72 hours, humanity would surrender or die. Those were the only options. The mathematics of war did not lie. What Vethiner did not see was what happened after Ambassador Chun left the room. She walked quickly through the station corridors until she reached a secure communications center. Her calm expression did not change, but her heart was beating fast. She sat down at a console and entered a code that only 12 people in the entire solar system knew. A connection opened to a location that did not officially exist. A place deep beneath the surface of Mars. A man's face appeared on the screen. He was old, with gray hair and tired eyes. But those eyes were sharp and alert. "It's time," Ambassador Chun said simply. The man nodded. "How long?" 72 hours. 4,000 ships. The man was quiet for a moment. Then he smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who had been waiting for this moment for a very long time. "Then we proceed with the Prometheus Protocol," he said. "God help us all." The transmission ended. Ambassador Chun sat back in her chair and closed her eyes. She thought about her children on Earth. She thought about the billions of people who had no idea what was coming. She thought about the secret that Mars had kept for 40 years. The Confederation believed they knew everything about humanity. They had watched Earth with their sensors and satellites. They had studied human technology and weapons. They had calculated that humans were no threat. But they had not seen what was hidden beneath the mountains of Mars. They had not discovered the project the 3 generations of humans had worked on in secret. They did not know about the ship. Soon they would find out, and nothing in the galaxy would ever be the same. Mars was a world of red dust and ancient silence. On its surface, nothing seemed to move except the wind. Satellites watched from above and saw only craters, mountains, and small human settlements struggling to survive. The terraforming project was decades behind schedule. The colonists lived in simple habitats and worked long hours just to stay alive. That was what the Confederation saw. That was what they were meant to see. Beneath the largest mountain on Mars, Olympus Mons, the truth was very different. Admiral James Okonkwo walked through corridors that had been carved from solid rock 40 years ago. The walls were lined with cables and pipes. Workers in gray uniforms moved past him with purpose. Everyone here had a job to do. Everyone here knew the secret. Okonkwo was 63 years old. He had spent 30 of those years in this underground world. He had watched the project grow from dreams and blueprints into something real. Something magnificent. Something terrifying. He reached a massive door made of steel 10 meters thick. Guards scanned his eyes and checked his fingerprints. The door slid open with a deep rumble. Okonkwo stepped through and looked up at humanity's greatest secret, the Prometheus. The ship filled a cavern so large it had its own weather. Clouds formed near the ceiling, 2 kilometers above. The vessel itself was 5 kilometers long, built from black armor that seemed to swallow light. Weapon arrays lined its sides like the spines of some ancient beast. Its engines were dark now, but Okonkwo knew they could produce more power than all of Earth's power plants combined. Commander Yuki Tanaka was waiting for him near the main elevator. She was young for her rank, only 35, but she was the best tactical officer humanity had ever produced. Her mind worked like a computer, calculating angles and probabilities faster than machines could process. "The crew is assembled," she reported. "All systems are ready. We received Ambassador Chun's message 20 minutes ago." Okonkwo nodded slowly. "So it begins." They rode the elevator up into the heart of the ship. The bridge was a wide circular room filled with screens and control stations. 200 officers sat at their posts. They all stood when Okonkwo entered. "At ease," he said, taking his seat in the center. "Put Ambassador Chun's message on screen." Chun's face appeared, and they listened to her brief report. 4,000 ships. 72 hours. Surrender or die. When the message ended, silence filled the bridge. Everyone knew what those numbers meant. Everyone understood the odds. Okonkwo stood and faced his crew. 40 years ago, he began, a probe from the Confederation crashed in the northern ice fields of Mars. It was an accident. A malfunction. The Confederation never even noticed it was missing. But we found it. He walked slowly around the bridge, meeting the eyes of his officers. Inside that probe was technology beyond anything humans had ever seen. Power systems, weapons, materials. We could have revealed it to the world. We could have announced to the galaxy that we had found alien technology. He stopped walking, but our leaders made a different choice. They chose to keep it secret. They chose to study it, to understand it, to improve it, and to build a ship that could protect humanity when the day came that the Confederation decided we were worth noticing. He gestured at the walls around them. That day is now. That ship is the Prometheus, and you are her crew. Commander Tanaka pulled up a holographic display showing the approaching armada. 4,000 red dots moved slowly toward the solar system. "Sir," she said, "our projections show that with our weapons and defenses, we can destroy approximately 300 enemy vessels before we are overwhelmed. Our technology is superior to theirs, but their numbers are too great." 300, Okonkwo repeated. He studied the display. "That's 7% of their force. Not enough to win." "No, sir. Not enough to win in a conventional battle." Okonkwo smiled slightly. "Then we will not fight a conventional battle." He pressed a button on his chair. The display changed, showing a complex diagram of the ship's systems. The Prometheus has a weapon the Confederation has never seen. They theorized it might be possible. Their best scientists said it could not be built. They were wrong. The diagram highlighted a massive structure at the center of the ship. "Point-to-point teleportation," Okonkwo said. "We can jump anywhere in space instantly. No warning. No travel time. We appear, we fire, we disappear. They cannot hit what they cannot predict." The crew stared at the display. They had known about the teleportation drive. They had trained with it. But hearing it spoken aloud, knowing it was about to be used in real combat, made it feel different. More real. "We will not win by destroying all 4,000 ships," Okonkwo continued. "We will win by breaking their will to fight. The Confederation has ruled for 12,000 years. They have never faced a weapon they could not understand. They have never met an enemy that refused to follow their rules. We will teach them fear." An officer near the back raised his hand. "Sir, what about Earth? What about the colonies? If we fail..." "If we fail," Okonkwo interrupted gently, humanity will be enslaved or destroyed. That is true. But if we do nothing, humanity will be enslaved anyway. The Confederation does not offer real choices. They offer surrender with pretty words. He returned to his chair and sat down heavily. I will not lie to you. Many of us will die in this battle. Perhaps all of us. The Prometheus may be powerful, but she is still only one ship. We are facing an empire that has conquered thousands of worlds. He looked around at the faces of his crew. Young and old. Men and women. People who had left their families to live underground for years. People who had kept humanity's greatest secret safe. But we are also humans, he said. And humans do not surrender. We do not give up. We do not accept that anything is impossible. That is what makes us different. That is what the Confederation does not understand. He checked the time display. 68 hours until the Armada arrived. Begin launch preparations, he ordered. In 12 hours, we rise. The galaxy will learn what Mars has been hiding, and nothing will ever be the same. The crew returned to their stations. The ship hummed with activity as systems came online. Deep in the heart of the Prometheus, the teleportation drive began to charge. Above them, the ceiling of the great cavern began to open. Sunlight touched the ship's black hull for the first time in 40 years. Mars was about to reveal its secret to the universe. The Confederation Armada dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the solar system. The flash of their arrival was visible on Earth as a brief flicker of light near Jupiter. 4,000 warships hung in perfect formation, a geometric pattern that had crushed civilizations across the galaxy. High Commander Zixthal stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Victory. He was a Vorax, a species of tall reptilian warriors who had served the Confederation for 6,000 years. His scales were dark green, and his eyes were cold as ice. He had led 30 conquest campaigns and never lost a single battle. Scan the system, he ordered. Show me what the humans have prepared. His sensors officer worked the controls. A holographic map of the solar system appeared. Red dots marked enemy positions. 200 human vessels near Jupiter, the officer reported. Mixed types, mostly small patrol craft. A few larger ships with missile systems. Nothing we have not seen before. Zixthal made a rumbling sound of contempt. 200 against 4,000. These humans are either very brave or very stupid. The Mars colony appears dormant, the officer continued. Minimal activity on the surface. The population seems to have retreated underground. Hiding like insects, Zixthal said. As expected. What about their moon? Their Earth? Heavy civilian traffic on the moon. Earth has activated some planetary defense satellites. Old technology. They would not stop a single cruiser. Zixthal nodded with satisfaction. This would be easy. The humans would fight their little fight near Jupiter. His fleet would brush them aside like dust. Then Earth would surrender, and another species would join the Confederation's long list of servants. Open a channel, he commanded. All frequencies. Let every human in this system see what comes for them. The transmission went out. On every screen across the solar system, from Earth to the asteroid mines to the bases on the moons of Jupiter, the face of High Commander Zixthal appeared. Humans of soul, he said, his voice translated into every human language. I am High Commander Zixthal of the Confederation Armada. You have been given the chance to surrender peacefully. Some of you have chosen to resist. He gestured, and the view changed to show his fleet. Ship after ship after ship, stretching into infinity. Look upon the force that faces you. 4,000 warships. Weapons that can burn your cities from orbit. Soldiers that have conquered 100 worlds. This is your final moment to choose. Lay down your arms. Accept your place in the Confederation. or be destroyed. He let the message hang in the silence of space. Then he leaned back in his command chair. Now we wait. They will surrender within the hour. They always do. But instead of silence, something came back. A signal, not from Earth, not from the human fleet. The signal came from Mars. High Commander, his communications officer said, her voice uncertain. We are receiving a response. But the frequency, we should not be able to detect it. It is using quantum encoding that humans should not possess. Zixthal frowned. Put it through. A human face appeared on screen. An older man with dark skin and gray hair. He wore a military uniform, unlike any the Confederation had seen before. Behind him was a bridge filled with advanced technology. This is Admiral James Okonkwo of the United Earthship Prometheus, the man said. His voice was calm and steady. We received your ultimatum. Here is our response. On Mars, the ground began to shake. In the great basin called Hellas, cracks appeared in the rust-colored surface. Dust rose in massive clouds. Rocks tumbled into newly opened chasms. The colonists in their small habitats felt the vibration and wondered if an earthquake had struck. But this was no earthquake. The top of Olympus Mons, the tallest mountain in the solar system, began to split apart. Massive doors, hidden for 40 years, slowly opened. They were 10 kilometers wide. The Confederation satellites watching from orbit suddenly registered an energy spike larger than anything they had ever measured. Something was rising from inside the mountain. On the Eternal Victory, alarms began to scream. Officers shouted data at each other. The holographic display flickered and updated. High Commander, the sensors officer cried. A vessel is launching from Mars. Size is 5 kilometers. Energy output is ... impossible. The readings must be wrong. Show me, Zixthal demanded. The display zoomed in on Mars, and there it was. The Prometheus rose through clouds of dust and debris like a monster from an ancient legend. Its black hull caught the sunlight and seemed to drink it in. Running lights ignited along its length, red and white, 5 kilometers of pure power. Weapon arrays unfolded from its sides, dozens of them. Weapons that Confederation computers could not identify or classify. For a long moment, no one on the Eternal Victory spoke. No one could speak. They had conquered worlds. They had destroyed fleets. They had never seen anything like this. What is that? Zixthal whispered. The Prometheus cleared the atmosphere of Mars and turned toward the Armada. Even across millions of kilometers, it seemed to be looking directly at them. Admiral Okonkwo's voice came through the communication channel again. You said we have one choice, he said. You were wrong. We have another choice. We choose to fight. The Prometheus began to accelerate. Not slowly, not gradually, but instantly, as if the laws of physics did not apply. In seconds, it was moving faster than any ship the Confederation had ever tracked. All ships, attack pattern Omega. Zixthal roared, recovering from his shock. Destroy that vessel. His fleet began to respond. Thousands of ships adjusted their positions and powered their weapons. 500 cruisers accelerated toward the human ship, energy cannons charging. But deep in his chest, in a place he had not visited for centuries, Zixthal felt something cold. Something he had forgotten existed. Fear. The first wave of cruisers opened fire. Thousands of energy beams crossed the void toward the Prometheus. And then the human ship disappeared. Not destroyed. Not cloaked. It simply was not there anymore. Before Zixthal could process what had happened, alarms screamed from a different direction. The Prometheus had appeared inside his formation, right in the center of his fleet. Its weapons fired. 47 Confederation warships died in the first second. The silence that followed was not calm. It was terror. Because in that moment, every being in the Armada understood the same thing. They were not the hunters. They were the prey. The Prometheus jumped again. One moment, it was in the center of the Armada. The next moment, it was gone. The next moment, it was somewhere else, appearing from nothing like a ghost made of metal and fire. Commander Yuki Tanaka's fingers flew across her controls. Numbers and calculations filled her mind. Distance, angle, time. She had trained for this her entire life. Now every second mattered. Teleportation complete, she announced. Firing dark matter cannons. The Prometheus unleashed its weapons. Beams of pure darkness shot from its sides and struck Confederation ships. The beams did not burn or explode. They simply erased. Wherever they touched, matter ceased to exist. Ships vanished as if they had never been built. 23 vessels destroyed, Tanaka reported, jumping again in 3 seconds. Admiral Okonkwo gripped his command chair. The bridge shook as enemy fire passed through the space they had just left. Keep moving. Do not let them predict our pattern. The Prometheus jumped. It appeared behind a group of battlecruisers and fired before they could turn. It jumped again, this time below the main formation, striking upward at the unprotected bellies of transport ships. Jump, fire. Jump, fire. On the Eternal Victory, High Commander Zixthal screamed orders at his officers. Track that ship. Calculate where it will appear next. We cannot, High Commander, his tactical officer replied. The mathematics. There is no pattern. It is jumping randomly. Our computers cannot predict random behavior. Then flood the space with fire. Fill every cubic kilometer with weapons. The Armada tried. 3,000 ships fired in all directions. Space itself seemed to burn with energy. But the Prometheus was never where the fire was. It was always somewhere else. Always one step ahead. Hours passed. The battle continued. In the engineering section of the Prometheus, Chief Engineer Santos worked desperately to keep the teleportation drive functioning. The system was never designed for this many consecutive jumps. Warning lights flashed everywhere. Power fluctuations threatened to tear the drive apart. Admiral, Santos called through the communication system. The drive is overheating. We've made over 400 jumps. The safety limits were 200. I can give you maybe 50 more before the whole system fails. On the bridge, Okonkwo checked the tactical display. They had destroyed over 1,800 Confederation ships, almost half the Armada. But that still left more than 2,000 enemies, and the Prometheus was running out of tricks. Understood, Santos. Do what you can. Okonkwo out. He turned to Tanaka. Blood ran down her face from a wound where a piece of ceiling had struck her. She had refused medical treatment. There was no time. Commander, how many more can we take before they reach Earth? Tanaka calculated quickly. At current destruction rate, maybe 500 more. That leaves approximately 1,500 ships. Enough to glass every city on Earth. Not acceptable. Okonkwo studied the display. The Confederation flagship was visible near the rear of the formation. Zixthal was keeping it protected, surrounded by his heaviest ships. Smart. But Okonkwo had not survived 40 years underground by being predictable. All remaining teleportation power to one final jump, he ordered. Target, the Eternal Victory. We will take out their flagship and their commander. Sir, Tanaka said slowly, that jump will be into the center of their heaviest defenses. Even with our armor, we will not survive more than a few minutes. I know. The drive may fail mid-jump. We could be scattered across space. Killed instantly. I know that too. Tanaka was silent for a moment. Then she nodded. Setting coordinates for the eternal victory, Okonkwo opened a channel to the entire ship. All hands, this is the Admiral. We are about to make our final jump. It will put us directly against the enemy flagship. Many of us will not survive the next few minutes. He paused, looking around his bridge at the men and women who had followed him into this battle. For 40 years, we lived underground. We kept the secret. We built this ship. We trained for this moment. Earth never knew we existed. Our families never knew what we were doing. We gave up everything so that humanity would have a chance. He stood from his chair. Now we finish what we started. We will not destroy every ship in this armada, but we will destroy their will to fight. We will show them that humanity will never surrender. We will make them fear us. His voice grew stronger. And when we are gone, Earth will remember. Earth will build more ships, train more crews. And when the Confederation comes again, they will face 100 Prometheuses. 1,000. Because that is what humans do. We learn. We grow. We overcome. He sat back down. All power to weapons and engines. Prepare for jump. The Prometheus appeared directly in front of the eternal victory. For one frozen moment, the two flagships faced each other. The massive Confederation vessel, elegant and ancient, carrier of conquerors. And the angular black human ship, smaller but terrible, covered in scars from 6 hours of constant battle. Then both ships opened fire. The Prometheus shuddered under the impact of 100 weapons. Whole sections of the hull were torn away. Crew members died at their stations. Fire spread through lower decks. But the human ship kept firing. Its dark matter cannons struck the eternal victory again and again. Shields failed. Armor melted. Explosions ripped through the Confederation flagship. Hull breach on decks 5 through 12. An officer shouted, "Teleportation drive is destroyed." Another cried, "Engine 2 is gone." Okonkwo watched the eternal victory begin to break apart. Zixtel's face appeared on screen for a brief moment. The High Commander's cold eyes were wide with something that might have been respect, or fear, or both. Then the eternal victory exploded. Forward shields gone. Tanaka reported. All weapons offline. Engines failing. Okonkwo looked at the tactical display. The armada was in chaos. Ships fled in all directions. Without their flagship, without their commander, the perfect formation had become a panicked mob. Earth was safe. For now. "Commander," Okonkwo said quietly, "it has been an honor." Tanaka smiled through the blood on her face. "The honor is mine, Admiral." The Prometheus, burning and broken but undefeated, drifted through the wreckage of the enemy fleet. In the distance, the survivors of the Armada retreated to hyperspace. Humanity had won its first battle against the stars. But Admiral Okonkwo knew the war was only beginning. The light from the explosion was visible from Earth. People across the night side of the planet looked up and saw a new star burning in the sky. It lasted only a few seconds, then faded. But in those seconds, billions of humans felt something change. They did not know what had happened. Not yet, but they felt it in their bones. Something important had just occurred. The Prometheus drifted through fields of wreckage. Half the ship was gone, torn away by Confederation weapons. Fires burned in a dozen sections. Of the 3,000 crew members who had begun the battle, fewer than 400 remained alive. Admiral Okonkwo was not among them. In his final moments, as the bridge collapsed around him, he had recorded one last message. A survival pod ejected from the ship seconds before a Confederation torpedo struck the command section. The pod tumbled through space, carrying the Admiral's words into the darkness. Commander Yuki Tanaka had survived. She was badly wounded, one arm broken and burns covering half her body, but she was alive. She had been thrown clear during the explosion and rescued by a search team 2 hours later. Now she sat in a medical bay on a rescue ship from Earth, watching the broadcasts from across the solar system. The story was everywhere. Mars had been hiding a secret battleship. The ship had faced the entire Confederation armada. It had destroyed over 2,000 enemy vessels. The enemy flagship was gone. The High Commander was dead. The surviving enemy ships had fled. Earth was celebrating. People danced in the streets of every city. Fireworks filled the sky. Strangers hugged each other and cried. Humanity had faced extinction and survived. But Tanaka did not celebrate. She watched the wreckage of the Prometheus on her screen and thought about the friends she had lost. She thought about Admiral Okonkwo, who had given his life for a species that had never known his name. Commander Tanaka? She looked up. A young officer stood in the doorway. We found the Admiral's survival pod. There was a message inside. The officer handed her a small data chip. Tanaka inserted it into the screen beside her bed. Admiral Okonkwo's face appeared. He was recorded on the bridge of the Prometheus, just minutes before the end. Smoke filled the air behind him. His uniform was burned, but his eyes were calm. To whoever finds this, he said, tell Earth that the Prometheus did what she was built to do. We bought humanity time. Use it wisely. He paused and looked directly at the camera. Build more ships. Train more crews. The Confederation will be back. They have ruled the galaxy for 12,000 years. They will not accept this defeat. They will return with more ships and better weapons. This was not the end of the war. This was only the first battle. He managed a small smile. But so will we. Humans are survivors. We adapt. We learn. We never give up. That is our greatest strength. That is what the Confederation does not understand. The image shook as something struck the ship. Tell my daughter I love her, Okonkwo said quickly. Tell her I did this for her. For all the children of Earth, so they could grow up free. Another explosion. The image flickered. Okonkwo out. The screen went dark. Tanaka sat in silence for a long time. Then she wiped her eyes and stood up carefully, ignoring the pain from her wounds. There was work to do. Far across the galaxy, the news spread. The Corvani Dominion received the battle reports first. Ambassador Veffener, who had delivered the ultimatum to humanity, read the data 3 times. He could not believe what he was seeing. The primitive species. The weak creatures he had dismissed. They had destroyed half an armada. He sealed the borders of the Corvani Dominion immediately. No ships were to approach human space. No contact was to be made. The crystalline beings retreated into their own territory and watched from a distance. The Varax hegemony mourned their high commander. But their mourning quickly turned to fear. If Zixthal could be defeated, anyone could be defeated. The Varax began building new ships. Not to attack humanity, to defend themselves. From humanity. The Syndicate of Eth analyzed the battle data with their vast computer networks. They calculated probabilities and projected outcomes. Their conclusion was simple. Direct conflict with humans had a negative expected value. Trade was preferable to war. The machine collective of Proxima was the most disturbed of all. They had believed teleportation on this scale was impossible. Their entire understanding of physics was challenged. They retreated into their digital realms to recalculate everything they thought they knew. The Council of 7 Species convened in emergency session. It was the first such meeting in 3,000 years. Representatives from every major power in the Confederation, gathered in a vast chamber on a neutral station. The topic was not how to conquer humanity. The topic was how to survive humanity. They hid their true capabilities for over a century, one representative said. What else are they hiding? Their technology should not exist, another added. They improved on Confederation designs. They created weapons we cannot understand. They refused to surrender. They chose death over servitude. What kind of species does that? The debate continued for days. In the end, no agreement was reached. The Confederation had never faced a threat like this. They did not know how to respond. And so silence descended across the galaxy. Ships stopped traveling near human space. Communications were monitored, but not sent. Observation posts watched from safe distances. The galaxy held its breath and waited to see what humanity would do next. On Earth, the celebrations eventually ended. People returned to their normal lives. But nothing was normal anymore. Everyone knew that they were not alone in the universe. Everyone knew that enemies existed among the stars. And everyone knew that humanity had won its first victory. In the ruins of the Prometheus, salvage teams worked to recover what they could. The teleportation drive was destroyed, but pieces of it remained. Engineers studied the fragments, learning, improving. Plans were drawn for new ships. Better ships. Faster ships. In a small apartment on Earth, a young girl looked at a photograph of her father. She had never known what he really did. She had thought he was just a geologist on Mars. Now the whole world knew the truth. Her name was Sarah Okonkwo. She was 12 years old. Looking at her father's face, she made a quiet promise. She would follow in his footsteps. She would protect humanity. She would make sure his sacrifice meant something. The first battle was over. The war for the galaxy had just begun. And in the silence that stretched across the stars, every species wondered the same thing. What would the humans do next?